Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Tron Ares. My name is Daniel, and joining alongside me in the grid is Shahbaz.
Hello.
And Anthony.
What's up?
We're in the grid. We're having a good time. We're so excited to be talking about Tron. These movies come out very few and far between. I mean, we had with the 80s, we had like 2010, and now we have 15 years later, we're back with Tron Ares. It's been a while. We've never really covered Tron here on the show. The most that we've got, the closest we've come to Tron is when we had the director Joachim Rønning on last year for The Young Woman in the Sea, and we're like, hey man, you're directing this movie. And guess what? Joachim Rønning is going to be joining us again on the movie podcast later this week to talk all about this film, working with Nine Inch Nails, and so much more. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I just love to know for both of you, to get the conversations going, to get us all talking, I just love to know your history with the series of Tron. And Shay, I'd love for you to start us off.
You know, my venture into Tron was really just Tron Legacy. That was the first Tron film I had seen, and I admittedly only watched that because I love Daft Punk, and I was so excited to hear them do a score, and they were going to be in the movie for a quick scene, and it just felt right. It felt like Tron and Daft Punk like just made sense, like it's like meant to be. And I watched. You know what's funny? I actually bought the movie on Blu-ray. Never seen it, but I was like, you know what? It was that era where I was just frivolously spending money. Bought it, watched it at
3D
home.
Blu-ray as well too, right?
I want to say yes. I can't remember if I got the 3D one or not. And I came home and I just watched it, and I was like, okay, I think I'd seen it that one time, and like that was kind of it for me. Didn't dislike it or anything. I just don't think it left a lasting impression. I've never seen the first Tron film. I don't know if I ever will watch it. I hope one day I will. And I have ridden the Tron light cycle ride at Disney World. So those are my connections with Tron here. I've been in the grid.
Good. I think it's a well balanced.
Yeah.
How was the ride, by the way?
Oh, it was so fun. It's like such a cool ride. It like it's a little uncomfortable at first because you're kind of sitting on a motorcycle like really face forward, but then it really picks up.
Okay, it's a light cycle, dude. Come on. Stick with the terminology.
Light cycle. You're right. And then you kind of go on this. It looks like it's going faster than it is, but when you're on it, it doesn't feel that fast. But it's still really good, really fun ride. I really enjoyed it.
That's cool. Yeah, because I saw that they were doing kind of like the revamp of the current ride to coincide with Tron Ares, so everything's like red and it looks cool. So hopefully we'll make it out there to play. To ride on it. But Anthony, I'd love for you to jump in. You know, give us your thoughts. Tron. You know, where's your history with the series?
I'm in the same boat with Shay. It's a movie that I know of and how it pioneered a lot of things that were related to computer graphics, ILM and Pixar stuff, but I never really seen that first one. And my first introduction really to this world was Legacy, which I didn't gravitate to. I gravitated to the soundtrack more than the movie. And here we are with this new one, which is, I feel the same way. We'll get into our conversation. But it's interesting that the soundtracks for these films usurp the actual film itself.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. You know, I've seen the first Tron film. It was a movie that my dad always like talks about, that he was working at the movie theater when it came out. But it's an interesting film because, like you said, Anthony, it's such an important movie to visual effects. The fact that this is a film that came out in 1982 and you're seeing things done on screen that we've never seen done before, it's huge, and it's a really important movie. And I think it's a movie that has such an interesting cult following to it. And then Tron Legacy did really well at the box office. So obviously people showed up for that movie. People showed up obviously to hear Daft Punk, but there is a love for it. And, you know, I've seen Tron Legacy once, really cool looking movie. So I like that we're all kind of coming into Tron Ares in a similar spot where it's like, yeah, like we're interested. I'm always interested to see what comes next in the world of Tron. I'd never seen the Tron show that they did, the Elijah Wood show, that animated show that they did in the mid 2010s. I think it was Tron Uprising. But again, Tron Ares, we're coming at it from an interesting perspective, the three of us. So I'm excited to go on this journey. So let's talk about it. Again, this movie is starring Jared Leto, Greta Lee, Evan Peters, Hasan Minhaj, Jodie Turner-Smith, Jeff Bridges, and Gillian Anderson. It's an interesting time for a movie to be coming out with Jared Leto. It's an interesting time, and we'll just say that, again, we're aware of the allegations that have been brought forward. We're not going to be speaking to those allegations today, but we're just going to be talking about Tron Ares for the movie that it is. That's a discussion for another day, so we'll keep it there for now. But let's get to our first reactions to Tron Ares. And Anthony, I'm going to get you to start us off.
The two things that work for this film, which I mentioned in the beginning of our segment, is the soundtrack and the visuals. Those are the two biggest takeaways from this movie that I really, really enjoyed. I think with Tron Legacy, it set in motion a really cool art direction for this franchise. I think the look of this world and what you see on the big screen, it just works so well. You have like these lasers, you have the red, these deep blacks, the glossiness. It looks very cool on the big screen. And the soundtrack it fits the visuals. It has this edginess, this like in your face rock alternative, very 90s, and it's Nine Inch Nails, and it just blends the visuals and the music and the score together, and it just creates this very visceral experience. The two things that don't work for this movie, in my opinion, is the story, which I find super weak, and Jared Leto, who I just don't understand. I understand why he's part of this movie. I just don't understand why he's part of this movie. It's just, I wish it was someone else taking charge in this movie. I know he is a big part of why we have Tron Ares and being a producer, and this movie this franchise being a big part of his life. And he said it many, many times. But I just feel that his character, Ares, his performance, it's just very robotic and not interesting. And that leads to a story that's not very interesting and surface level, where we could have really deep down dived into this world and really told an interesting story that kind of continued the franchise. So you have these really cool looking sets and visuals and soundscapes and sound itself, but you're mixing it in with a character that's not interesting, an actor that I don't really like seeing on the big screen, and a story that's just bland. Like we all said it, there's not much to this story. It's very surface level, but the visuals and the action sequences kind of save it. But overall, my experience watching this in IMAX was, yeah, this is fucking cool. But and that's where I'm at with it. It's like, I hope and I wish they go a different route with this franchise in future films.
Yeah, I want to jump off from, obviously, Jared Leto, who I think is going to be the point of contention for the three of us in this film, because he has such like a negative aura whenever he's on screen. And again, it could be just the way we see him now, knowing so much more about, his shady past, but also just he doesn't have a presence in this movie because he is so robotic. You're right, Anthony. Like, we see him come on screen, you're just like, okay, you have more of a cool presence when your helmet is on because you're acting a little differently. You feel a little bit more part of this world of the grid. But as soon as it's his character, Ares, it just really falls flat because he's not really given much to do either as a character. And then that as you start to, get to know him a bit more throughout the rest of the film, he is starting to become a little bit more, he's starting to make a little bit more quips and jokes. And you're just like, hold on, this feels so weird compared to how you were acting before. And it never felt like we really got to a place that he was starting to, I guess, acclimates to being into the real world. So that was a little like, there's a little bit conflicting points that way. But what I will say, like what Anthony was saying, is holy shit, did this movie look cool? It sounds cool. We'll talk more about it. Anthony, sorry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I do want to, I get it. He plays a program, but as you see this character, within a couple of minutes, he wants to be free. And he still doesn't understand. And the movie doesn't really portray it in a way that I want to understand why he wants to be free. Is it because he saw the rain once? There's a human connection that is completely lost in this film, and Jared Leto doesn't perform it and give you that, oh, now I understand why you want to get out of this this world. So that's kind of where I'm at. Sorry, I just wanted to mention that.
No, that's totally fine. And I think that the human connection is the most important part, especially for the story that this film is telling, where they're trying to find this permanence code that whatever, they create using these really cool looking like laser 3D printers. It's very industrial. It's very, very cool. I love the sound that they make. They're trying to these things only last for like 30 minutes. So they're trying to find, the code to get that to get them to work. But again, it's like you have these characters who are wanting to tell a human story and become, part of this world, but you're losing that human connection in the meantime. Shahbaz, love for you to join us in the grid. Give us your thoughts on Tron Ares.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of covered it up here, but it is really Jared Leto that sticks out as a sore thumb in this entire film. And a lot of it does go back to that robotic performance. Again, we understand he is a program, he is a robot of some sorts, but there are ways to get around that. I look at performances like Alan Tudyk, who's played fantastic robot characters with such charisma, even though they're supposed to be monotone and one note. There's still a level of humanity that you can kind of connect with. A character that I think is very much kind of like Ares would be Alicia Vikander's character from Ex Machina. I think that's what I was going to say as well. Such a fantastic performance, and you really kind of gravitate towards that character. Even Michael Fassbender in the Prometheus films. There's all these great robotic performances that can be done, but Jared Leto, almost like you were saying, Daniel, has this negative aura, this lack of charisma as soon as you kind of see him. Man has no riz when he's on screen. He's just there, and it's just like, I'm going to crack a joke, but you just kind of feel cringy when he does. And maybe that is the point, that it's supposed to be cringe. But when he's your main character, when he's the one that you're supposed to gravitate towards, you kind of feel yourself just stepping further and further away from him. Also, the sequence of events, they kind of just happen. You don't really care about what's happening with a lot of these characters, and you don't have no connection to them. They're just, sure, like, yeah, I guess we're just going along for this ride. It's the story that's really in the back burner. Now you're getting amazing visuals, some of the best I've seen. You can tell they really, really spent their time on crafting how this world was going to look. There's just so many moments where I'm like, I can see this as like my desktop wallpaper because it would look so damn cool. Or I can see an art print of this in my room. It just has such a cool visual language and a visual style, and you just really, really fall in love with that. And of course, the score by Nine Inch Nails, I mean, it's fantastic. It's not groundbreaking in the sense that it's not anything different than what we've heard from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, but it really, really works well in this world, and it really elevates a lot of the scenes because, frankly, as cool as the scenes look, they usually kind of feel a little bit empty sometimes. There's a bit of this bland lifelessness to some of the moments that are occurring on screen, but the score elevates those scenes to make them seem really, really wicked and really engaging. There are like random actors that will kind of show up for like 5 seconds of screen time, and you're like, oh, you're much bigger than this. Was your role cut out of this film? So you can tell that there's probably a lot more story in this movie that got cut out or just kind of left on the cutting room floor here. And you're feeling, I guess, a bit of that struggle throughout the film because as big moments are happening, you're like, well, this seems just way too sudden for this to happen suddenly here. And why are we getting into this point of this film? And why do I have to care about this character? There are characters that kind of take a backseat for quite a bit of time. And then when you go back to them, you're like, oh yeah, like you're still in this movie. You're still having this subplot run in the background that I totally forgot about or it didn't really matter. It has the makings of a 2010 film, the same problems that I think Legacy had when it came out, and it doesn't really change anything up. So you look at this film and you're like, did we need another Tron movie? Did we need to elevate this further? And I don't know if we really did. Again, looks cool, sounds cool, but that's really about it.
It's interesting though, because like, even though like there's a lot of moments in this film that are thrilling and are pulse pounding, and I think this is one of the coolest looking movies of the year, I'm still like, yeah, like it's interesting that you could have such high highs in a movie, but you have, I think, such, not even just lows, just generic kind of motivations throughout where you're like, even Evan Peters and Gillian Anderson, you're just like, okay, they're, a competing company who wants to, get to the permanence code for themselves, and they're in control of Ares and, Jared Leto's character and those AIs. And it's like, I think we've seen this so many times before, and that's, and you're right, Jay, like it definitely does feel like this was a script that's kind of been sitting since 2010, 2011, waiting to be put into production. But I really do want to talk about Nine Inch Nails album for this, because what's unique about this film is that they're actually going under Nine Inch Nails. They're not going by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So I think that really allows them to feel more like a Nine Inch Nails record, where it's like feels very gritty and it feels very alternative, but also you have like these vocal stems throughout, and you have some really incredible songs. I think just the opening, song to this film in it, where like literally like you hit play on this movie and you're getting a montage, which again, not always the most exciting way to start a movie, where you're just like, here's a montage of everything you need to know to understand, the character motivations in this film. And it's kind of like, if you guys remember in The Flash, when he's in the Speed Force and it's like CG versions of, Henry Cavill and all these characters and his family and stuff. It's very much like that. It's like CG versions of like characters and like newsreels and stuff like that of kind of setting up this world. And again, I get you have to do that after being away for 15 years. But that's all to say, holy fuck, the soundtrack is incredible as this movie starts, and it doesn't stop throughout. We've already heard As Alive As You Need Me to Be, which is like the main single off of this. But there's a really cool scene in this film, one of my favorite scenes in this film, where we have, Ares and the other, AIs hacking another corporation. And we have the song Infiltrator playing, and it just sounds so damn cool. It looks so cool because it's giving like a visual to what an AI looks like hacking another AI, and it makes it such high stakes. I'm like, oh man, I'm locking the hell in this moment because it's very cool. And I'm like, man, if only the entirety of this film kept those stakes and those visuals, or if we stayed in the digital world more. Because I think when you have a world like the grid and this digital, this space that we could play in, it's so much cooler than just being in New York City. You know what I mean? So anytime, or what's sorry, not New York City. What's the city that the state? It's like Central City, or it's a different name for the city. It's not like the actual like New York City, but like it's so much cooler than just being in the real world, is what I'm saying. So when you have like Greta Lee, who's great in this film, and I really like her motivation for, she wants to find something permanent because she had loss in her life, and if she only had this thing, maybe she could have, like you're searching for the unattainable, basically, right? I just feel like so many of these plot points aren't given the service that they need to really tell a really interesting story throughout. But there are some really great moments in this movie, and I'm still left just like, if they made a sequel to it, I'd still want to watch it. You know what I mean? But again, like there's still so much in this movie that I'm like, but would I want to watch it if it's continuing exactly with the characters that were in this one? I'm still interested in Tron, but am I interested in these characters? And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
And because these movies have taken so long to come out and continue a story, where the characters from Tron Legacy, they're mentioned in the beginning of this movie, but then they're never talked about again. And it feels like, are they trying to are they going to bring those characters back? Are they going to bring Olivia Wilde and was it Jared Hedlund?
Garrett Hedlund, yeah.
Garrett Hedlund, not Jared. My bad. But yeah, it's like, what is the end game for this franchise? And I hope it's not Jared Leto, because the way it felt at the end, it just felt like this is just maybe a piece of the puzzle, maybe not the grand piece. But I do think that it would suck not to see more Tron, because it just visually looks amazing. I think it's one of the coolest looking movies this year I've seen on the big screen. It's just the visuals look cool, the lights, the light bikes, the with the soundtrack, everything is just flawless and it looks really cool. And now that you can bring some of the elements from Tron world, like these big machines, into the real world, it creates like this industrial looking mashup of modern and tech in this one place. So I hope to see more of it. I just don't want to see Jared Leto in it.
And I think that's kind of where we're at. Where again, like, you mentioned like the machines, Anthony. I'm like, man, like when like we have the giant, the exterminator or whatever those big like machines are called. I'm like, man, that's so cool. Again, it's like there's so many cool things in this movie that I love, and it reminds me a little bit of like Jurassic Park in that sense, where it's just like anytime I see a big dinosaur, I'm like, this is so cool. And then you're like, oh, the story's whatever though. But you're going for just like the visuals, and especially that score in IMAX are amazing. But yeah, it's just kind of like, I just wish that this movie left a little bit more of an impression. I will tell you though, I have been listening to the soundtrack like nonstop for the last 2 weeks since we've watched it. So, and I just want to see more of this world, but maybe not more of, this particular storyline in it. But let's get to our final recommendations, unless we have anything else that any of us want to talk to. We're good to go, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Shahbaz, start us off with your final recommendations for Tron Ares.
It's kind of a tough one, because I think visually and sonically this movie needs to be watched in a theater. You need to hear it in IMAX. You need to see it in IMAX because it looks great. Do I think that, story-wise and Jared Leto and everything, like, make that experience worth it? Not really. It's kind of like, if you can go on like one of the theater cheap days, just a Tuesday, watch it on that day in IMAX, then cool, you'll probably find like the value for your dollar there. But in general, you probably just add it to your queue.
I'm right there with you. I think this is a movie that you definitely need to see on a big screen, because you're going to get so much out of the visuals and the score. But again, don't go in thinking you're going to be getting a groundbreaking story. This is through and through an experience that you're going to go for the visual, for the sound design, for the score, because that is absolutely pulse pounding. It's thrilling, and it's incredible to experience that. And it really is one of the coolest looking movies this year. Just know the story itself isn't fully there, and you're going to have some really weak performances, especially harder to digest when it's from the lead character themselves. But there is a lot of good here, and I definitely would love to see a sequel, whatever that's going to look like. I just really hope that we continue to get more Tron in this world. Anthony, take us home.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the visuals, sound design, all that just makes this movie something that you want to see in the big screen. But maybe you leave that to the Tuesday or the cheaper days where you don't have to spend all your money or the big chunk of that money on it. I think the story is super weak, and performances and characters, they're just bland. It almost feels like this should be more of a, like a ride. It feels like a ride, but it's like it's getting mixed in with this story part that you just want to kind of separate it from. So I definitely would say watch it in IMAX if you can get it in IMAX wherever you are, because I think that's the best way to watch it.
Tron Ares is in theaters on October 10th. We want to say a huge thank you to our friends at Disney Studios Canada for inviting us to do the interviews, for inviting us to watch the film. Stay tuned this week for our interviews with director Joachim Rønning. We have a great conversation, and especially if you love Nine Inch Nails, I feel like half our conversation, I think we speak to him for like 15 minutes, and I feel like 6 or 7 of those minutes is all about Nine Inch Nails. So definitely tune in for that. Check out our show notes below for everything you need to know and more. We have lots more to come here on the show. And, we're getting closer and closer towards the holiday season, a lot of big movies to come. And you're already in the right place. You're already in the best place to get everything you need to know and more. So that was This Time with the Movie podcast, and we'll see you next.